Welcome once again to school. This is Mary's School of Prophecy. I'm your professor, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times. And I'm sorry I didn't have my usual music because I tried to get my iPad working and it would not cooperate. I think these iPads are hugely overrated. And I don't know if there's a better product out there or not, but the iMac, the screen that I am using right now, the computer, I have no complaints whatsoever. But the iPad, I don't know. They were not designed by the same people, I can assure you. Excuse me a minute. Now, tonight I want to talk about the abomination of desolation, a very famous phrase because our Lord himself refers to it in Matthew 24. And Jesus says, when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, in other words, it's a specific abomination. There's all kinds of abominations everywhere, but this is what is spoken of by Daniel the prophet. Standing in the holy place, let him who reads understand. And that means it's for us in these end times, because the people he was speaking to, most of them could not read. But in the end times, most people can read. And that's why it's a prophecy for us. And if you study Matthew 24 and you look up abomination of desolation in Daniel, you will find that there are 4 different abominations of desolation, and they apply to the 4 different groups that I've been talking about on here for 11 years, and that is the raptured Protestants, the protected Catholics, the holy martyrs, and the converted Jews. So we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, I think I'll just take a look at the chat, see if there's something here I should be aware of. And everything seems to be going okay as far as broadcast goes. Wendy says, I also use my iPhone, not my iPad or laptop. Oh, really? Kathleen says, William, please give me Molly's address if you have it still when you send me the book. Okay. I hope I can remember that. Well, best thing to do would be to write it down. I haven't got your I haven't sent your book yet. Tomorrow I hope to get caught up on all the books I have to send out. Let me go back to the first of the chat. I don't know why I am jumping around here. Wendy says, are the abominations in chronological order? The Holy Martyr, Pope John Paul II, the raptured Protestants. Well, excuse me. I don't know why. As soon as I start the program, I get a frog in my throat. Raptured Protestants, Word of Life Church, Trump and Netanyahu, peace deal, converted Jews, the stolen hosts of protected Catholics. No, I don't think that's the chronological order. I think the people who are affected first, if I understand the chronology correctly, are the Catholics. That's us. And that's when Pope Francis published his Amoris Laetitia about 2 years ago. The second one is when it affects the nation of Israel, and I believe that we saw that, the countdown to that start Tuesday, and with the announcement of that peace plan. The third group would be the raptured Protestants, although, as you will see, the warning for them has been given thousands of years ago. In other words, the rapture can occur at any time, and that's the chief characteristic of the rapture. And the fourth group, the last group, would be the holy martyrs after the Antichrist takes over. So we're going to look at all 4 places in Daniel where he talks about the abomination of desolation, and we'll talk about the 4 groups that it applies to. Jesus said, when you see the abomination of desolation, as I just quoted, standing in the holy place. And then he gives 4 different flight patterns, because that's our response to the abomination of desolation. And I believe that for everyone, the response is a physical response, an actual fleeing. And it's not I don't think it's spiritual. The first he says, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. And he doesn't give them an order either. And we know because the rest of the Olivet Discourse is not in order. For example, he gives the parable of, the parable of the 5 talents, the 10 talents, 5 and 10 talents, or 5 talents, and the 5 and 10 virgins. I think he's got those in reverse, if I remember correctly. Anyway, the Olivet Discourse is not in chronological order, so there's no reason for us to think that the 4 groups he mentions would be in chronological order. So the first group, he says, as I say, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. And then we know from the Jewish teenager Natan, the mountain is the Mount of Olives. That's where they flee to. And they will be saved by what he calls the Mashiach, but who I say is the prophet Elijah. Same person. The next one is let those who are on the rooftop not go down to take their cloaks. I think they're next, right? Or is it those who flee from the field? I get them mixed up. Anyway, let's go. Those who are on the rooftop, they can't go down for any reason. The only other reason is up. Therefore, that refers to the raptured Protestants. The third group, let those who are in the field not go back to get their cloaks. Those are the Catholics who leave the field, the green field, and flee into the desert. All of these are flights, or at least leaving your current location. I mean, with the raptured Protestants, they don't flee into any place on this earth. They flee into heaven, so to speak. And the fourth group are the martyrs, and that's why Jesus says woe. And there's it's 4 different woes. Woe to those who are pregnant. Woe to those who are nursing. Pray that your flight be not in winter, and pray that your flight be not on the Sabbath. So 3 of those 4 would be all physical hindrances to fleeing. That's why I say all of these flights are physical flights. Now, let your flight be not on a Sunday. That could be physical, or it could be spiritual. Anyway, those are the 4 groups. So, and I think we can start with our oh my goodness, we've already started with our program, haven't we? All right. So what we should do first is say our prayer. We ask Our Lady of all nations to bless this ministry and this particular program. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of the Father, send now your Spirit over the earth. Let the Holy Spirit live in the hearts of all nations, that they may be preserved from degeneration, disaster, and war. May the Lady of all nations, the Blessed Virgin Mary, be our advocate. Amen. And thanks to Catholic Crusader for alerting me to that prayer, which has kind of become our patroness prayer. And notice Mary says that she's the Lady of all nations, plural. She is not a globalist. Okay, I want to show you the chart, which, oh, by the way, if you're looking for this in your booklets, this is in volume number 2, My People Perish for Lack of Knowledge, and it's on page, I think I told you this morning, 230. I'm basing my program on that, and if you read that, let me know if I left anything out of this presentation. So here is the Abomination of Desolation chart. And at the top, you see the categories. First, the prophecy, and that is where we find the particular prophecy, the particular abomination of desolation, which Daniel talks about. In the second column, we see the group which are affected. In the third column, we see who causes the abomination. In the fourth, we see the destination of the people who flee or are martyred. So the first column, we see Daniel 8, verse 13. I listed these in chronological order as far as they appear in Daniel. In other words, 8, 9, 11, and 12. And this is not in the order in which they occur. So Daniel 8 has to do with the holy martyrs. It's caused by the Antichrist. He is the one that makes the martyrs, and their destination, of course, will be heaven. So let's look at Daniel 8, verse 13, where we find this first abomination. And I heard one of the saints speaking, and one saint said to another. I believe these 2 saints are the 2 prophets, Enoch and Elijah. In some places they are called saints. Some places they are called angels. Some places they are called men. Here they are called saints. I know not to whom that was speaking. How long shall be the vision concerning the continual sacrifice, and the sin of the desolation that is made, and the sanctuary and the strength be trodden under foot? This is the typical expression of the abomination of desolation. And I suspect that the one who asked this question is the prophet Elijah, and I suspect he is asking Enoch, because just about wherever you find Enoch speaking or saying something, he talks about the timing of the events. And in the next verse, we find the timing. And he said to him, unto evening and morning, 2,377 days, which I express in as 77 months, and the sanctuary shall be cleansed. So let me go back to my chart. So you might ask, why do I say that the holy martyrs are the ones affected here? Well, to tell you the truth, I determined that by a process of elimination. That whole chapter 8, or a lot of it, is about the Antichrist. Therefore, he is the one that causes the martyrs. We know that the one, as far as the field goes, is for the Catholics. We know that for the those who are in Judea refers to the Jews. So by a process of elimination, I have assigned this one to the holy martyrs, which is the fourth group. Excuse me, I got Sister Renee's picture in there. I labeled it wrong. I labeled it scene 3, and I got confused there. Sorry about that, sister. If you want to talk about that later, we can. So now let's look at the next verse from Daniel that has to do with the abomination of desolation. This is Daniel 9, and we've been talking about this the last couple of days, verse 26 and 27. The whole chapter of 9 refers to the Jews. It's a warning to the nation of Israel. We will see that the one who causes the abomination is the prince who shall come, and the destination is the mountains. As Jesus said, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountain. So let's look at Daniel. And I've shown you this quite a bit the last 2 days, Daniel 9, 26 and 27. And the phrase abomination of desolation is found in part of verse 27, what I call section E there. And there shall be in the temple the abomination of desolation. And this is caused by, if you look at 26c, and a people of the prince who shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. This is a prophecy for end times Israel. When the Jews in Israel see the people of the prince who comes destroy the city and the sanctuary, when they see him coming, that's when they have to flee to the mountains, the Mount of Olives. That is the abomination of desolation as it affects the Jews. The martyrs, when they see the Antichrist, I believe they are the last ones. The Antichrist is not here yet, or at least he's not public. When they see him persecuted, that's when they have to, well, they can't flee, of course. That's the problem with it. But that is when they can expect their martyrdom. All the rest, everyone else by then should have already fled. So now let's look at the third group, which I have is on the chart, and we find this in Daniel 11. This refers to the raptured Protestants. The one who causes it is Antiochus Epiphanes. I forgot to put the S on Epiphanes. And the destination for the raptured Protestants, of course, is heaven. So let's read that verse. And arms shall stand on his part. And this is Antiochus Epiphanes. And this happened many years ago. And they shall defile the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the continual sacrifice, and they shall place there the abomination unto desolation. And I looked up Antiochus Epiphanes. This is from, I think it's Wikipedia. Antiochus IV was called Epiphanes. The king of Syria captured Jerusalem in 167 BC and desecrated the temple by offering the sacrifice of a pig on the altar to Zeus. And that is called the abomination of desolation, as we just read. And as you can see, that happened over 2,000 years ago. So why would something that happened 2,000 years ago be a warning for the raptured Protestants? As I said, the reason is because it simply means that they have to be ready at all times. Your warning has already occurred. Get ready, in other words. And of course, our Lord said over and over again that that would be a characteristic, to get ready. And I do not believe I made a chart for the next. I'm going to have to read it. If I can find my Bible. I can't believe this. I thought I had all of these slides made. So let's look at my chart, and that's so I can find the right Bible verse. This has to do, I think, we haven't done the Catholics yet, right? Oh, wait a minute. I should have that somewhere here. Oh, yeah, I think I have it. Okay. I don't have to read it. I did make a chart. It's one I always had. So now the abomination of desolation found in Daniel 12, verse 11, is the AOD as it applies to the Catholics. And I say they're protected because they are protected by Mary in the desert. The one who causes this particular abomination of desolation is the false prophet. And of course, the destination for Catholics is the desert. That's where we flee. So let me show you where that's found in Daniel 12, verse 11. And that's on the right-hand side. And it relates to Daniel 10, verse 3, if you understand the structure of Daniel. But I'm going to read it from 12 and then show you how 10:3 explains it. And from the time when the continual sacrifice shall be taken away. So what is the continual sacrifice? So you read 10:3. Daniel says, I ate no desirable bread, and neither flesh nor wine entered into my mouth. That refers to the Holy Eucharist. That symbolizes the body and blood of our Lord as found in Catholic churches. Now going back over to chapter 12, verse 11. Until the abomination unto desolation shall be set up. And if you go back to 10:3, we find out who causes this abomination of desolation. Neither was I anointed with oil. That refers to the false prophet, who is not, he is the Pope, but he is not truly anointed. He is an interloper. And the last part is the timing of this event is given. There shall be 1,290 days. And in 10:3 explains that till the days of 3 weeks were accomplished. That shows you that these times are all symbolic. They are not precise, but on the other hand, they are pretty close. They are approximate time. I don't think we should ever interpret any of these times for the abomination of desolation exactly, literally. So I think we've covered everything in the chart now. Sometimes the abomination of desolation is given to the name of the person. In other words, the false prophet is the abomination of desolation. And also what he causes is the abomination, in the same way the previous ones. The Antichrist, the prince who comes, Antiochus, and the false prophet. They are the abomination, and they cause the abomination. So I think that covers all of the biblical passages I wanted to go over. And if you have any questions on the abomination of desolation, the first one, didn't go through and organize these according to the way I believe they occur. I believe the first one has already occurred, as I said. That's why I say the abomination is here now. The continual sacrifice is taken away from Catholics, refers to the Eucharist being destroyed by Pope Francis. He did that. He accomplished that with the Amoris Laetitia Apostolic Exhortation, footnote 351, in which he said that Holy Communion could be given to people living in mortal sin, and almost immediately, within 3 days, several countries had already adopted that anyone and everyone could receive communion. Malta, Cardinal Supich in Chicago, I believe the Philippine bishops said, until we come up with something definite, the communion is available to anyone. And I don't know if they have come up with any definite plan or not. All of those things occurred at the time. So the second one, and the reason I've been inspired to do this is, of course, because yesterday the covenant was, let me just put that on the screen. And in other words, Daniel 9:27a was fulfilled. He shall confirm the covenant with many in 1 week. And the one who confirms the covenant is not the Antichrist, like the false prophets I try to tell you. Rather, you look across to the left of B. After 62 weeks, the anointed one. That's who confirms the covenant, the anointed one. In the near time fulfillment, it was Jesus himself. In the end times, it would be the leader of Israel. And I believe at this time, that would be Netanyahu. And he does one thing, as you notice, and what is coming up next. And it could be fulfilled in the election. The people of the prince who shall come shall destroy the city. Now this could be symbolic. The one prince who comes, maybe he's Benny Gantz. He's without a doubt a representative of the deep state, and maybe his destruction of Judaism and Jerusalem would be spiritual as much as it is physical. It could be that we will see the fulfillment of that abomination with Benny Gantz. Or it could be, as I've been suggesting for quite a few years, that the prince who comes is Vladimir Putin. But in neither case is he the Antichrist. The prince who comes, I don't believe is the Antichrist, and I know the one who confirms the covenant is not the Antichrist. He's the good guy. The next guy who causes the destruction is the bad guy. The third abomination of desolation, as I say, is the raptured Protestants, but that is not hard and fast, because the whole point of the rapture is that you don't know when it's going to occur. That can occur at any time. Don't think that just because the first abomination has occurred and the second one has not yet occurred, that the rapture can't occur. No. That's the whole point of Antiochus Epiphanes being the one who is the warning for the rapture. The whole point is that you have to be ready at any time. So I think we have covered that pretty well. And if anybody would like to make a comment, I might as well read the chat and see if any of you have any questions. Irvin Baxter is doing a program today. I will probably watch it to see how bad, how often, how many mistakes he makes. Because he has been saying for years that the Antichrist confirms the covenant. And of course, that's crazy. But he doesn't understand the structure of Daniel. You have to unseal Daniel before you can interpret. Too many people think that Daniel 9:27 follows 9:26 chronologically, and it doesn't. The two verses are pairs, parallel. They tell the same story. Okay, Patricia Arndt says, I am here for the good news. Kathleen checks in. Mark Trusso says, Wendy, who is the holy martyr, Pope John Paul II, that you mentioned? Well, he's not the holy martyr for the abomination of desolation. The holy martyrs will be, I think they will be the last, chronologically speaking, because the Antichrist does have to come into power before they are martyred. People who are martyred now will go to heaven, but they won't return with Jesus at the Battle of Armageddon, whereas those who are martyred by the Antichrist will return with Jesus. I suspect the reason for that is because the martyrdom under the Antichrist will be horrifying. I think that is why they will suffer much more than previous martyrs. I think that's why they will earn their ticket to the millennium. Jesus said, remember, when he sends his angels, he says he sends his angels after he arrives on Mount Zion, he sends his angels to gather the elect from under the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other end of heaven. Those are the three armies that are with him at the Battle of Armageddon. The Jews are not with him at the Battle of Armageddon. The ones who survive, the ones who are sealed, they go into the Mount of Olives. The armies from the elect from under the four winds, those are the protected Catholics. They are scattered in the desert. The second army is in one end of heaven. That would be the raptured Protestants. And those in the other end of heaven are the holy martyrs, the ones who return. Those are the three armies he has with him. He also refers to them in the book of Revelation as the called, the elect, and the faithful. Same three armies. The called are those who are called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. The elect are the protected Catholics. The elect is the same term that Isaiah uses in chapter 45 and Micah uses in chapter 5. The elect as a specific group. The called, elect, the faithful are the martyrs. Those are the three armies that are with Jesus. Landon says, good afternoon, Mary's School of Prophecy. Mike Harrington says, this is the class I've been waiting for. All the Baptist training that I've had said this will happen in the new temple, or the third temple, when the Antichrist tells us all that he is God after the peace treaty. I know that's what the false prophets have been saying for 30 years anyway. There will be no third temple. And let's look at Daniel 9:26. There's no third temple. There's no reinstitution of animal sacrifice. And there's no peace treaty between the Antichrist and Israel. But if you go to watch, I'm sure if you go to watch Irving Baxter today, I'm sure he's going to post a video. He was doing it live before this program started. I'm sure he'll mention all those characteristics. Oh my goodness. If you look at 9:26 and 27 again, let me just look at that. I put the wrong one on the screen. If you look at 9:27E, and there shall be in the temple the abomination of desolation. Then look at G. And after the end of the war, the appointed desolation. And then H. And the desolation shall continue even to the consummation and to the end. That means the destruction of the temple. And in the near time fulfillment, that was caused by Titus, the Roman general. He destroyed the temple. And as you can see from Daniel's prophecy, that the temple is not going to be rebuilt. Now, there is a third temple, but this is after Armageddon. This is during the millennium. But does not come before that. So the false prophets have got that all pretty much messed up. Mark Trusso says, I thought we were finished with 8 years of the abomination. Unborn babies were surely made desolate under his leadership. Well, yes, we have all kinds of abominations in the church. We have desolations in the church, but that's why Jesus was so specific. When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, that narrows it right down. You have to find that phrase in Daniel. And as I just showed you, you find that phrase or parts of that phrase in 4 different places. Christine says, Our Lady of all nations, pray for us. Ms. Malakat checks in. Wendy said, I meant Pope John Paul II. Carolyn says, Molly, you weren't here this morning, so I want to tell you, no earthquake in Shanghai, China. It was fake news on my phone mixed in with regular news. Sorry. Wendy says, I also use my iPhone, not my iPad. Yeah, I'm about to give up on this iPad. I don't know if there's something better or not. Maybe I'll get my nephew to help me. He's an expert on computers. But I can't believe that. Why wouldn't that music come up again? I've had no problems up until now. Well, I should say the last 3 or 4 programs. It kept telling me that it was not connected to the internet. But my Wi-Fi was on. I put it on 10 minutes beforehand just to make sure it was on. And then I double checked, and my computer was. If I wanted to, I could have connected to my computer because it showed that it was right there live. I don't know. And then Kathleen says, Kathleen, if I write this down, maybe I'll remember it. Maybe I did write this down. Well, I'm going to write it down again. If I write it down, hopefully I will remember it. Molly's address when you send the book. Okay. In fact, I did the same thing yesterday when you told me that. I put the note on the floor. That usually works. Molly May says, Carolyn, I did old news too. I thought it was new news. Bless your heart. Catholic Crusader says, good afternoon, Professor T. My chat dug off just when I was about to get an interesting comment from Catholic Crusader. Sorry, I have to go back and find where I was. Oh, here he is. Okay. Good afternoon, Professor T. and Remnant. MSOP motto, you must unseal before you can interpret. I wasn't in class yesterday because of my prison ministry duty. No iPhones in prison. Maxuda says, hi, Mr. T, Sister Renee, and everyone. Please watch the Remnant video from yesterday It has information about the Amazon Synod and more. I'm waiting right now, expecting at any time for Pope Francis to allow married men to be priests. That will open the floodgates so that it will allow many traditional priests are already being squeezed out in anticipation of this. Wendy says, didn't know John Paul II was a martyr. Thanks for enlightening me. I need to read up on his death. Yes, if you have any information on that, Wendy, give us a link. I think Sister Renee believes he was a martyr also. I know Pope John Paul I was murdered. I think everybody knows that, or they should. Not that the Vatican admits it. Bayside, Mary told the three cardinals that did it: Cardinal Benelli, Cardinal Casaroli, and Cardinal Villot. I would think that if they did not do it, the Vatican would put out a denial, but they never did. Well, Molly, I was embarrassed. And I called my son in China. He told me, Mom, there's been no earthquake in Shanghai. And I insisted there was. He told me to put away my conspiracy websites. Ms. Mellowcat says, hello, everyone. 7 cases of coronavirus here. 1 only half away and spreading worldwide. Earthquakes going, etc. Sounds like the beginning of sorrows. Pray for all these people. It sure does sound like the beginning of sorrows. Wars and rumors of war, earthquakes in diverse places, plagues. These are all sure signs of the end times. And we just had an amazing sign yesterday with the confirmation of the covenant. And what covenant was that? There's a question for you, Catholic Crusader. I don't think if you missed the class yesterday, you probably don't know this, but you should have watched it for your homework. What covenant did Netanyahu confirm yesterday and Trump? Let's see. Ms. Mellowcat says, hello, everyone. 7 cases of coronavirus here. 1, I guess I read that. Carolyn Couch says, Mr. Tapley, do you think Nathan, the young Jewish prophet, could be Elijah? No, I don't. I think Nathan has his own mission, and I think he is a test for the modern nation of Israel, and how they react to him is going to determine their fate, and I don't think that they are giving him any kind of credibility. I haven't heard anything from him for the last 2 years. They should give him all kinds of coverage on YouTube. He should be doing something every week. Nothing is happening as far as I know in Israel. Of course, I don't have much connections with Israel, but I'm afraid exactly what Daniel prophesies for Israel is going to happen, and that is the prince who will come is going to destroy the city and the sanctuary. And that could be symbolic. It could be that he's going to destroy Judaism in Israel. And when you see that, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. That's what you better get ready to do. Mark says, Ms. Mellowcat says, don't forget the prayer to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Yeah, we said it. Thanks. Mark, I may be wrong. Sister Renee has all the info on the Pope John Paul II. Ms. Mellowcat says, those in traveling with the coronavirus are halted, as in these scriptures. Well, I guess, a lot of people are trying to avoid it. My recommendation is the same as I always give in the winter, and that is to avoid large crowds. Don't go to movies. Don't go to malls. Don't go to restaurants. And I violate that rule myself when I go down to the diner here twice a week. But other than that, I don't do any of those things. Sister May says, that's okay. I think Jesus wants his face shown so he knows we're protected. Oh, you're talking about the picture. Did I miss some chats? No, I don't think I did. Catholic Crusader says, Professor Tapley, the chart you have on the screen is not on page 230, volume 2. There's another AOD chart located on page 212, volume 2. Okay, let me look that up. No, I should have, maybe that's why I didn't do it, but I should have put a chart on page 230. Looking back on it, I should have put the same chart that I just showed you. And I never did it. I should have. So you're saying on 212 there's a chart? Let me look and see. In volume 2. Oh, yeah, well, that's what I should have done. That's basically the same chart. Except they have the... Yeah, that's basically the same chart. Thanks for letting me know that. That was the chart I was looking for. I couldn't find it. There it is, people. This is basically the same chart I just showed you, except that I have the dates on the right-hand side, which the Bible says, which are in there. In other words, 2300 mornings and evenings, the midst of the week, 175 BC, and 1290 days. So thanks for that, Catholic Crusader. I don't know why I couldn't find that this morning. I was looking for it. That's basically the same chart. If I had known that, I wouldn't have had to make another chart. I would have just taken a screenshot of that. Carolyn Cow says, Does desert mean without the Eucharist? Yes, I think so. I think that's exactly one of the things that it also means physical deprivation, spiritual and physical deprivation. That's what it means to be living in a desert. And you remember Jesus says, don't take your cloak. Don't go back to take your cloak. If that is physical, I'm not sure if that's physical or spiritual, but it means that you have to leave in a hurry. That's what it means. Expect to leave overnight or maybe in 20 minutes, as John Leary says. When he says, I have a list of changes in the works from 1958 of the renewal of the Catholic Church from our Tridentine parishioners, and Catherine Emmerich received visions of the infiltration by Masons. The Masons had this planned out. Yes, and they've been very successful, too, in undermining the Catholic Church. Tom Hennenberry says, Mr. Tapley, could you explain the details of the rapture of the Protestants? I thought the Church always taught that was a myth and was not even mentioned in the first 1,500 years of Christianity. Well, the Church has never taught it was a myth. Many Catholics have told me that the Catholic Church teaches against the rapture, and then I say, well, where? Show me where. And, of course, they never can find it because the Catholic Church does not teach against the rapture. As far as the first 1,500 years of Christianity, the term rapture is new. That is a Protestant invention. What the Bible says, St. John calls them purchased. That's his term for the raptured. Purchased and, what's the other term? My mind skips me now. Purchased and, well, anyway, called. Purchased and called. Those are the two terms St. John uses for the raptured. He doesn't use the term rapture. So when you say it's not mentioned in the first 1,500 years, it's mentioned a lot in the book of Revelation. And Jesus, the whole parable of the 5 wise and 5 foolish virgins is about the rapture. Following message is held for review. But if you think the Catholic Church teaches against it, please let me know where. Because whenever I challenge people on that, they never get back to me because they can't find it. There's no place the Catholic Church teaches against the rapture. Now, that doesn't mean people like Tim Stables don't teach against it. Or Father Mitch Backer, people like that. Yeah, they might teach against it. But nowhere does the Catholic Church teach against it. Let's see. Mark Trousseau says something that YouTube blocked. So I'm going to try to read this, Mark, and not get myself blocked. He says, I've uploaded all my Satan-worshipping videos to YouTube. You can guess they've all been... Well, see, YouTube didn't even know you were giving a joke here, Mark. So I will show this. I don't know why YouTube blocked this. I've uploaded all my Satan-worshipping videos to YouTube. You can guess they've all been demonetized. Okay, gotcha. Mark Gardner says, I pray for you every day and your apostolate. The bushfires in Australia remind me of the end times prophecies of St. Pio. The randomness of homes being destroyed and others saved shows God's hand in this. Well, that is interesting. And lots of times you find that when we have big fires also here, that some houses are mysteriously saved and others are not. Ms. Malaket says, Pope Francis is wormwood. That's another name for him. Cardinal Wormwood, I call him. That's the first manifestation of the false prophet in the book of Revelation. The second one is when he is called the beast from the earth. And we find also wormwood in Jeremiah 23, I think verse 15, also referencing Pope Francis as the false prophet. Unless he repents. I don't like to close the door on him. Maybe he will walk away from the papacy and say that he's not supposed to be the Pope. Pope Francis is wormwood and is the abomination of desolation, is destroying the church from within. Yes, that's exactly right. The abomination of desolation is both the person and the destruction. He's in other words, the destruction is personified by the person who causes it. The Antichrist, the false prophet, Antiochus Epiphanes, and the prince who comes. Sister Renee says, has anyone ever read the book AA 1025, The Memoirs of an Anti-Apostle by Maria Carr? I haven't read that. I've heard a lot about it. I might have it in my library. I almost think I've read it. Brian, you have the slightest idea of what you're talking about. Who are you talking to, Brian? You talking to me? I wonder who he's talking to. Okay, I don't see anybody around here. Who can you be referring to? Sister Ray says, in the 1960s, a French Catholic nurse... Oh, yeah, now she's going to talk about this book. In the 1960s, a French Catholic nurse talks about being in a hospital and getting a manuscript talking about the infiltration of the Catholic Church with Masons from a dying man. Carolyn Couch says, yes, I read it. When she tells about the communist infiltration, yes. Ms. Melcat corrects one of her spellings. Sister Renee says, you can buy it through Tan Books. It's a bright orange cover. Jody Barrick says, what does raptured Protestants mean? Well, I know a lot of Catholics say, how come Protestants get raptured? Well, first of all, there's only a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction that get raptured. And, well, John says 144,000. Now, that's a symbolic number, but still, that's less than a fraction of a percent. Practically all Christians have to go through the tribulation. But there are a very small percentage of Protestants who are raptured. Now, I base that on the description of them. John describes them. If you look at those who are the descriptions of the raptured, you'll see that fits Protestants. For one thing, his nickname for them is prophets. And certainly Protestants are more interested in prophecy. More often than not, they get it wrong, but they are more interested in it. He also calls them very interested in music. They're always playing musical instruments. In heaven, they are playing musical instruments. And if you look at Christian radio stations around the country, for example, they all play music all day long. I mean, the Protestants are definitely interested in religious music. And he gives several other descriptions. That's why I call them raptured Protestants. They don't have to be Protestants. It could be people from every denomination. One thing for sure is they are very holy. Or, as Jesus says in his parable, they keep their lamps full and their wicks trimmed. And if I probably shouldn't say that, but that's sexual symbolism. They are pure in these end times. Carolyn Couch says, I recommend the book. It's very thin, but very informative. Sister Ray gives a thumbs up to Carolyn. Sayaku says, hello to all. God bless. Wendy says, the consecration to be called a memorial blessing. Statues will be replaced by revolutionary banners. Oh, this is from the book. 10 Commandments will be replaced by love slogans and peace, fastings. This is in the book you're talking about, I'm sure. Oh, sorry, my chat just took off, people, so I gotta see if I can't get back to where I was. 10 Commandments will be replaced by love slogans and peace. Fasting and kneelers, rosaries phased out. Catholic Crusader says buffering. Okay, I don't see a problem here. On my side, everything looks good. Sorry about that, Catholic Crusader. Jody Barrick says, okay, thanks. Lana Dorver says, Jesus was our sacrifice. He died on the cross. Not necessary for animal sacrifices anymore. Of course not. Animal sacrifices will be satanic. I'm not saying they won't. They might not try to. By the way, this peace treaty, the peace plan of Donald Trump, please notice there was nothing in there about building a third temple. There was nothing in there about starting up animal sacrifices again. And, of course, there was no mention of the Antichrist. So those are all three key provisions of what the false prophets say the peace plan in Daniel 9:27 is all about. And they've been preaching that for so many years that they believe it themselves. Wendy says, buffering here. Refreshing the screen didn't work. Ongoing buffering. I don't know why that would be. Maybe I can change the settings. I don't like to experiment during the program, but let me just see if I can change the settings a minute. Let me see here. Stream settings. Can you see this, by the way? I don't see it here. Oh, I know. I think I have to go into YouTube and change it. Just a minute. Let me see if I can change the settings over here. See if that helps. Oh, I don't have it even marked. That's strange. I can't change the settings because we're in the middle of our broadcast. I'm going to have to check that every time. I don't have my stream optimizations checked. It's supposed to be checked. That's maybe my fault, people. That's one more thing that I'm going to have to check every time. I thought it repeated automatically. Sorry about that. I think it might be my fault. I've got to make a note of that. Oh, it's one thing after another. It's my engineer's fault. He makes a lot of mistakes, the engineer I have, as you know. Fortunately, the host is perfect. Let's see. Ms. Melcat was a peace covenant. Yeah, the peace plan that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu presented yesterday. I think that's the final expression of the confirming of the covenant in Daniel 9:27. And I asked Catholic Crusader if he knows which covenant that was confirming. Sister Renee says, one of the sisters in my order who was an interpreter for John Paul II was also once a surgeon and worked with the same doctors that worked on John Paul when he was in the hospital dying. To be continued, okay? When he says, to resolve the Israel and Palestine's conflict. Rosary Piper says, anyone know a good recipe for communion hosts for the refugees? Flour and water, baked and cut. See, I wouldn't know a thing about that. You could probably find it on the internet somewhere. I know you can't use any leavening. I'll bet you can find that on the internet. Catholic Crusader says, by the way, Professor T, have you received your GITD rosaries? No, I haven't. I will look for them specifically today because I've had requests for them already. I mailed them last Friday. $19 airmail? Oh, my goodness. Can you believe the postmistress told me it would take 5 to 7 business days to get to you for $19? I think you could have sent it some other way. Send it Pony Express. Holy cow. Anyway, I haven't gotten it yet. So let's see. Friday you sent it? Saturday? And then you said business day, so they can't count Sunday. Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is only 4 days. So 5 to 7. I should get it sometime this week. But no, I haven't got it yet. Sister Ray says, she said her surgeon friends told her that John Paul was not cared for properly, that cardinals stood outside his door and would not let the nurses in at appropriate times, and that he died a horrible death, just like Terry Schiavo. He was not attended to and was dehydrated, I believe, and starved. And the pain and suffering, I think, brought us more time of mercy. Well, that's interesting insight, Sister Renee, because I haven't heard anybody else. You're the only person I've heard that testifies to that. Cutie Pie says, watching since around 2010 from Colorado, but don't usually catch you live. You're very bold and faithful. Well, thank you, Cutie Pie. We've been live here now we've been doing the Rosary Live every morning for 1.5 years. And I just started this program about 3 months ago, I would say. I used to make videos all the time, but I've decided that live is more personal. I think people like the live broadcast, and that it allows people to chat in real time. And it's a good challenge for me so that I can express myself continually without reading notes. When I do live videos, I prepare a script, which I don't do with this. Sister Ray says, this information I gave came from the surgeons in the hospital at Rome to my sister of my order, and then through me, so I don't want to sound like a Democrat. Mark Gardner says, I almost thought a novena for Our Lady of a Mother of Good Success from Quito, Ecuador, finishing on the Feast of Presentation on the 2nd February. We'll send you an email. Okay. Maxula says, sorry I missed part of the class because Facebook just sent me a message that someone was trying to hack my identity on my Facebook account. I am not happy about it. No, that's why I don't even have Facebook. By the way, sister, you sent me something to look at Facebook, and it won't open because I don't have Facebook. Tony Garcia says, can we all please pray to God for mercy and more time? Also, that something bad like what happened on 9/11 doesn't happen on the 31st of this month. I don't want to get into any more details with this. Well, certainly but you have to be prepared for bad things happening, as you can see all around the world. As Mary said at Bayside, the pages of Revelation are turning faster and faster. So Catholic Crusader says, by the way, Sister Renee, I would like to book my Delta flight from Vancouver to Minneapolis for the end of July. Only 6 months away from the WFRN Pilgrimage 2020. A lot cheaper booking now rather than 1 to 2 months from now. Well, I don't think Sister Renee has totally figured out what she's going to do. It may be too late by then to have a pilgrimage. Let's see. Mark Trusso says, Wendy, just a few months ago, Australian Bishops' Conference said Catholics and Masons work together in a spirit of harmony. Details, LifeSite News Archives. Sure. Well, foxes and chickens, they like to work together, don't they? Which is no problem if the chickens agree. If the chickens can go along with the fox, that's like one of the problems with democracy is 2 foxes and a chicken get together and they vote on what they're going to have for dinner. That's not exactly fair, is it? Sister Renee says, go to the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe website to see if they have the dates that Cardinal Burke will be there. Yet it may be too early to put that on the website. Peter Perrine says, what denomination are you, Wendy? Wendy says, someone told me we're already in the chastisement. Peter Perrine asks her again, what denomination? Sister Renee says, if you don't find it, I wouldn't be afraid to actually call the shrine and talk to the director and ask him if he knows the dates that the Cardinal will be there. Catholic Crusader says, so, sister, do you have a better idea when the actual confirmed dates might be? Vancouver has only 2 direct flights to MSP Airport on small 737-900 planes. The prices will go up fairly quickly. Well, that's pretty good if you can get a direct flight to MSP Airport. That's once you get into Minneapolis, St. Paul, you've still got quite a drive to La Crosse. La Crosse has a airport, which is what I went into, which is just a 10-minute taxi drive from the shrine. Maybe 20-minute shrine drive. Wasn't. I gave the guy $20. But I had to take a connecting flight in Chicago, so you probably don't have a direct flight from Vancouver to La Crosse. Catholic Crusader says, especially flying from Canada. But you're right about the rates going up. Last year, it was in the springtime sometime. Sister Renee arranged our pilgrimage, and I ordered the plane tickets right away. About a month later, I thought I would just see how everything was going, the flights and everything, and the prices had already gone up. I mean, I didn't pay the upper prices, but other people who booked the exact same flights, they paid more. Catholic Crusader says, especially flying from Canada. Wendy says, do you believe that, Mark? Peter, I'm a Catholic. And you are? Okay, Peter, now challenge up to you. Wendy says she's a Catholic. What are you, Peter? Sister Renee says, I have no idea except to say that it will probably be at the end of July, just like last year. But I can't give the exact dates. Last year was the 25th through the 29th or something like that. Well, maybe we'll have the pilgrimage at your place, Sister Renee, and then you can determine yourself what dates you want. Celeste says, who do you think is the Antichrist? Who do I think? Well, I'm not sure. The Bible never tells us who the Antichrist is. John never even uses the term Antichrist. He just calls him the beast. Daniel, God says in Daniel, he's the basest man who ever lived. The basest man. The worst person who ever lived. So I have speculated that it might be Erdogan of Turkey, but I am certainly not guaranteeing that analysis. But I think you're new on here, Celeste, so welcome aboard. Lana Dorver says, Trump wants to give the Golan Heights and Gaza Strip to Israel permanently. Yes, exactly, and I think he should. But that is to fulfill. Which covenant, by the way, Catholic Crusader? Which covenant does that fulfill? That's your quiz for extra credit for tonight. There are 3 covenants mentioned in Daniel 9, 26 and 27. Let me see. My chat just took off here, people. I have to get back to where I was. Get back to where you started from. I'll say, Atlanta says Trump wants to give the Golan. Well, he's already given the Golan Heights to Israel. And of course, in other words, he's stating the American policy. Trump has already supported the Israel taking the Golan Heights, and he's already moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Now, he says we should recognize Israel's right to the settlements on the West Bank, and we should recognize the Jordan Valley as part of Israel. And, of course, the Bible gives all that land of Canaan to the Israelites in perpetuity. That's part of which covenant is that part of? I'm asking Catholic Crusader here. Okay, Sister Renee, I'll call the Marian Shrine office and ask them about Cardinal Burke and any other specifics for that time frame. Seems like they ought to know by now. Sister Renee says, that sounds great, Catholic Crusader. I'm thinking they probably don't even know themselves, but yet again, they may do. So good luck. Mark Trousseau says, Masonic Catholic priest says Australian bishops approved Catholics joining Freemasons. Lifetime news. They wish. Catholic Crusader says, what is the name of the book? The book that they're talking about, the other people are talking about, Cassie, the one where the Masons and the communists infiltrate the church. She gave it back some chat a while ago. Sister Renee says, too bad that is not one of your jokes, Mark. See, there's the problem with telling all these jokes, Mark, is that sometimes people aren't going to, you should start every joke with a joke warning, so that we know that joke is coming. Of course, that's half the fun of it, I guess. Catholic Crusader says, thanks, Sister Renee. Maxuda says, Mr. T, can't see you, but I can hear you. Well, nobody else seems to have that problem, or they would say something, Maxilla, so I don't know what the problem is. Probably on your end. Patricia says, Wendy, the chastisement is in the end times. Celeste says, who do you think the Antichrist is? Okay, well, you've asked me that twice now. Wendy says, they will eliminate Latin masses through several stages. The bishops will be called executives. Nuns won't teach religion. Catholic schools will become political and social action centers. Certainly that book called the shots pretty accurately, didn't they? Cassie Miller says, please pray for the Chinese who have coronavirus and are being sealed into their houses by authorities with a metal bar. The house is marked contagious. The people were begging them not to do it. Sad. T. Reader says, why do people say the American embassy in Jerusalem could be the third temple? Is that even realistic? No, that's nonsense. There won't be any third temple. I mean, they may try to build one. If this guy Benny Gantz gets in, they probably will. But that's to suit the deep state. There won't be any legitimate third temple. Catholic Crusader says, Sister Renee, how about the hotel in La Crosse? Was it the Gunderson Hotel? Special rates for the pilgrimage? Yes, Catholic Crusader is the Gunderson. That's where I stay when I go, even by myself. Sometimes it's very nice and very close on the main road to the shrine. Sister Renee says, the Gunderson has very nice accommodations, a nice complimentary breakfast, and it's very safe. Yeah, their complimentary breakfast is really good. That's about as complete as you can get. And it's a little different every day. You'll never go hungry with their breakfast. But I thought they were kind of expensive. Even the rates I thought were kind of expensive. But I had no complaint about the accommodations. It's a beautiful place. And it's very near. Sister Renee picked it because it's very near to the shrine. Wendy said, I agree, Patricia. They said we're in the end times right now. It's the worldly eruptions, earthquakes, plagues happening now. Well, yes, we are in the end times. I'm not sure if we're in the Great Tribulation or not, but we are certainly experiencing earthquakes, plagues, wars, and rumors of war. Just as Jesus said, that would be the mark. Kathleen says, stop saying holy with an animal. Who does that? I didn't say that, did I? Sister Renee says, Megan, I sent you 2 emails today. Did you not get them? Yes, Megan, is Megan here? Oh, Megan asked the question. How did I miss that? Hi, William. Did you get my email address for Sister Renee when I ordered more rosaries? Thank you. Yes, I sent it on to her. That's the first thing I did was to send her your email. And then Kathleen says, Megan, I sent you 2 emails today. Did you not get them? I hope I gave you the answer, the correct emails. Catholic Crusader says, sounds great, Sister Renee. I actually went to the Gunderson Hotel website a while ago. I was very impressed. Very nice place. Wendy says, I deactivated my Facebook in 2008. Yes, I deactivated it. I was on a month. And I realized that was not for me. And I got out of there. It took me 6 months to get out of it. Boy, they don't want to let anybody go. Mark Trousseau says, Eastern Catholics, Orthodox use leavened bread as a sign of the resurrection. Really? I didn't know that. Cassie Miller says, if something bad is happening on the 31st, better go to confession and communion, everybody. Well, you should stay in a state of grace at all times. If you want to make it into the new holy era. Ms. Mellecat says the Masonic Lodge was allowed to join the Catholic Church after Vatican II. So not only Australia, but worldwide. Infiltration instead of invasion. I'm not sure about that, Ms. Mellecat. I don't think Vatican II allowed Catholics to join the Masons. Wendy says, infiltration, agreed, Ms. Mellecat. Megan says, they just appeared. Thank you, Sister Renee. You just got the emails now? Kathleen says, the convent at or near the Passionist nuns. Our parish makes all the hosts. Oh, okay. Sister Renee recognizes Megan. Patricia Iron says, Wendy, such as the 3 days of darkness is the chastisement. Well, that comes at the very end. The 3 days of darkness. Don't expect to see that. Sister Renee says, whenever Cardinal Burke comes in July, Catholic Crusader, I will be there for sure, because I always go when he comes twice a year, once in July and once in December. Wendy says, right, Patricia, I was just sharing what they said. Catholic Crusader says, okay, sounds good, Sister Renee. Patricia gives a thumbs up to Wendy. Cassie Miller says, it's a good time for families to build a resource library with a Bible for each member of the family. True devotion to Mary, consecration to the Sacred and Immaculate Hearts of Mary, theology of the body, etc. And, excuse me a minute, but about an hour is about all I can sit in one place. Once I start kneeling down and get my new position here, it's much better, much more comfortable. Jesus says when they talk about peace, that will be the end. Reader says, thank you for what you do, sir. Your faith is very inspiring and encourages me to increase my faith as well. Well, thank you for those kind words. Catholic Crusader says the Abrahamic covenant. Is that the third covenant? Well, you are so right, Catholic Crusader. You get your extra credit. The Abrahamic covenant is the covenant which guaranteed the land of Canaan to the Jews forever in perpetuity. On the other hand, there is a covenant that will take it away from them, in effect. And that's the Mosaic covenant. And that is also found. I took it off of here. I don't have that chart. In Daniel, I think it's 9. I think it's verse 11. The law of Moses is mentioned. And that's covenant is mentioned in Daniel 11 and 12. 9, 11, and 12. And it doesn't say the land will be taken from them, but they will be ruled by their enemies. That's the punishment. And the nation of Israel today is not following the Ten Commandments. The nation of Israel gave us the story about Adam, Say, and Amorage. And here they are trying to bring back Adam, Say, and Amorage. And they are succeeding. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year to promote Tel Aviv as the Adam, Say, and Amorage capital of the world. And it doesn't matter how much Iron Dome they have or how much Donald Trump will support them. It won't make a difference. That's what they've got to. According to Daniel, what Daniel says, it's serious for the nation of Israel. And I don't see them supporting Natan, the true prophet, the true Jewish prophet. I mean, they don't have to follow me, but they don't follow Natan. The Lord gave them. The Lord has been giving us all kinds of warnings, and people aren't listening. Cassie Miller says, when they say peace, sudden destruction will come on them in a moment. Is this for the USA? Certainly we are involved in that, yes. John says that we will be burned with fire in 1 hour. Megan says, where do I buy an older Douay Rheims Bible? I've been looking in used bookstores to no avail. You can find a new one, Megan, on, I think, Tan Books. Just type in T-A-N, Tan Books. I think you can also find Douay Rheims Bibles on the TLDM.org website. Either of those two sites, I believe you can find a Douay Rheims, and you don't have to have a used one. Well, I think they're kind of expensive. I think they cost between $30 or $60. Wendy says, go Cardinal Burke. Sister May says, yes, Cassie, we've been working on our library for these past 20 years. It's packed with hundreds of Catholic books from before Vatican II. Good. Coca asks, so who is the false prophet? Well, right now, I think Pope Francis is fulfilling all of the descriptions of the false prophet. In other words, he is Cardinal Wormwood. By the way, don't read that book by Tom Horn about Wormwood. He's getting all... I mean, those guys sell hundreds of thousands of copies of their books, if not millions. And they're all filled with inaccuracies. Wormwood is a false prophet, not some kind of asteroid or comet or something else like whatever he's saying there. What's his name? Tom Horn, yeah. I can't believe how much publicity they get. Wendy gives claps to Catholic Crusader. Patricia Iron says, Megan, I got my Cat Douay Rams on eBay. A 1950 edition for $10. A deal. They go for hundreds. Yeah, that is a good deal. Patricia Iron says the old ones are expensive. Cassie Miller says, Tan Books is great. Beautifully written, inspiring, and reproduced books. Coca says, thank you for answering. Ms. Malagat says, this infiltration, also said by Our Lady of Fatima, and the third secret of the Masonic Lodge. Now, the Masonic slogan is Ordo ab Caro, order out of chaos. And there's no doubt Pope Francis is an expert at chaos. In fact, he said that. He said one of my missions is to create a mess. Can you imagine the leader of the Catholic Church saying he wants to create a mess? Catholic Crusader says, thanks a bunch, Professor T. I'll give you a nice selection of fruit because you are a super professor and co-prophet. Well, look at that. That is delicious. And I haven't had supper yet, so now I'm getting hungry. Megan says, thank you, Sister Renee, Patricia, and Cassie. So I'll thank all of you, and I think the chat is over with. And I think that means that I will sign off for this evening now. And I will see you all tomorrow morning, bright and early. And I will be back again for another Our Lady Mary School of Prophecy at 5 p.m. Don't forget Sam Fisher on his program tonight at 8 p.m. on Pietà Rosary, Eastern Time. He will also be reciting a live rosary, and he should be doing the Glorious Mysteries tonight. So I'll see you all shortly, or if not tonight, tomorrow. And so on. And therefore, let me get my slide in position here. So in that case, I will wish all of you, I will do my countdown. I wish all of you a very blessed day, and God bless all of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.